Silent watchers. Deep in the laboratories of the European Space Agency's Jupiter Monitoring Station, Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her computer screen in disbelief. The anomalous readings she'd been tracking for the past 3 months had finally resolved into a clear pattern. Hidden among Jupiter's countless moons were structures that couldn't possibly be natural. "Director Muller," she called out, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I think you need to see this." The aging director shuffled over, his cybernetic leg whirring softly. The augmentation was a reminder of humanity's progress and its cost. The Mars colony disaster of 2145 had claimed his original limb, but humanity had persevered, pushing further into space. "What have you found, Dr. Chen?" Sarah highlighted a series of readings on her holographic display. "These energy signatures. They're definitely artificial, and they're old. Really old. Carbon dating from the scattered debris suggests they've been there for at least 10,000 years." Mueller's eyes widened. "Are you absolutely certain?" The entire monitoring station fell silent as Sarah's discovery spread through the facility. Artificial structures orbiting Jupiter, hidden in plain sight for millennia. Humanity had long wondered if we were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it raised far more questions than it answered. Within hours, space agencies worldwide were analyzing the data. The structures weren't just observational posts. They were active, powered by an unknown energy source that had kept them running for thousands of years. Their purpose became clear as more data poured in. They were watching Earth. 3 months later, the International Space Coalition launched Operation Revelation. 5 ships, carrying the best scientists and military personnel Earth had to offer, set course for Jupiter. Dr. Chen and Director Muller led the mission aboard the ISS Curiosity, humanity's first antimatter-powered vessel. "Energy readings are spiking," Sarah announced as they approached the largest structure. It hung in space like a massive crystalline spider web, its iridescent surface reflecting Jupiter's eternal storms. "It's responding to our presence." Before anyone could react, a beam of light engulfed their ship. Instead of weapons fire, as many had feared, it was a transmission. The first contact between humanity and the species that called themselves the Archivists. "Greetings, children of Earth," the message began, translated instantly by their quantum computers. "We have watched your development with great interest. You have progressed faster than anticipated. We are the Archivists, the keepers of galactic knowledge and order." The images that followed showed the truth of humanity's past. The Archivists had been there since the beginning, watching, documenting, and occasionally interfering. They had quarantined Earth, preventing any other species from making contact, claiming it was for humanity's own protection. "This is a violation of every human right," Mueller argued in the emergency UN session that followed. "They've treated us like lab rats in some cosmic experiment." Sarah studied the archivist data they'd been allowed to access. Something didn't add up. The archivists claimed to be benevolent observers, but their actions spoke of control, not protection. Why maintain such an elaborate quarantine? What were they afraid humanity might discover? The answer came from an unexpected source. During a routine scan of the archivist facility, Sarah's instruments detected a quantum frequency she'd never seen before. It was weak, barely detectable, but it carried a message, not from the archivists, but from someone else. To the people of Earth, the message read, "You are not alone in your imprisonment. We are the Centauri, and like you, we are one of many species being studied by the archivists. They fear what we might become. They fear our potential. But together, we might have a chance at freedom." The message included technical data, blueprints for technology far beyond anything humanity possessed, but just within their theoretical understanding. The Centauri had spent centuries developing these advancements in secret, waiting for another species with the courage to use them. Sarah brought the data to Mueller first. "Director, look at these designs. If we can build this, we could break through the quarantine barrier. We could make real contact with the Centauri, and who knows how many other imprisoned species. Mueller studied the plans, his cybernetic eye whirring as it processed the complex equations. The risk is enormous. If the archivists discover we've received this message, they've already discovered it. A new voice interrupted. On every screen in the facility, an archivist appeared, their crystalline form shifting colors as they spoke. Your species has proven troublesome. You were meant to develop slowly, predictably, like the others. Instead, you push boundaries. You question. You resist. This cannot be allowed to continue. The transmission ended, but its threat was clear. Humanity had a choice: submit to continued observation and control, or face the consequences of resistance. Sarah looked at Mueller, determination burning in her eyes. They're right about one thing. We do resist, and now we know we're not resisting alone. Within days, quantum encrypted messages spread across Earth's networks. The plans from the Centauri were shared with every major research facility. Teams of scientists and engineers worked around the clock, knowing they were racing against time. The archivists had made their first mistake. In trying to suppress humanity's defiance, they had given it focus, purpose, and most dangerously of all, they had given humanity something it had always thrived on: a common enemy. As Sarah watched the first prototype quantum drive take shape in the laboratory below, she thought about the message hidden in the Centauri transmission. Earth wasn't chosen randomly to receive their call for help. The Centauri had been watching too, and they had seen in humanity something the archivists feared: the unshakable will to be free. The age of human submission was over. The archivists had spent millennia studying humanity, but they had failed to learn its most important lesson. Nothing was more dangerous than a human being told they couldn't do something. As the first test of the quantum drive approached, Sarah knew this was just the beginning. The real question wasn't whether humanity would break free of its cosmic cage, but what they would do once they did. The universe was about to learn why the archivists had been so determined to keep humanity contained. The silent watchers would soon discover that their greatest experiment had become their greatest mistake. Breaking chains. The quantum drive hummed to life in the depths of the Mojave underground facility. 3 months had passed since the archivists' threat, and humanity had not been idle. The prototype vessel, dubbed Prometheus, represented everything humanity had learned from both the Centauri data and their own ingenuity. Admiral James Rodriguez watched from the control center as his engineering teams made final adjustments. After 30 years in the Space Force, he'd seen humanity push countless boundaries. But this was different. They weren't just pushing boundaries. They were shattering them. Final diagnostics are green, Chief Engineer Yuki Tanaka reported, her hands dancing across the holographic controls. The quantum field is stable. We're ready for the first test. Rodriguez nodded, aware of the stakes. This wasn't just another technological breakthrough. It was humanity's declaration of independence. The test chamber erupted in cheers as the Prometheus vanished, reappearing precisely 1 light-year away. The quantum drive worked exactly as the Centauri had promised. But more importantly, it had worked without triggering the archivist's quarantine barrier. Send the signal, Rodriguez ordered. Within minutes, similar tests began at facilities around the world. The message was clear: humanity would not be contained. The archivist's response came swiftly. Massive ships emerged from hyperspace, their crystalline structures darkening Earth's skies. Their message was broadcast globally. Your species has violated quarantine protocols. Submit to immediate containment or face extinction. But humanity had prepared for this moment. As the archivist ships moved to attack position, Earth's orbital defense grid activated. Not the primitive kinetic weapons the archivists had detected, but quantum-enhanced shields and gravity weapons, rebuilt using Centauri specifications. They thought they knew everything about us, Rodriguez said, watching the archivist ships recoil from Earth's defenses. They documented our wars, our struggles, our technological progress. But they missed the most important data point. What's that, sir? Tanaka asked, coordinating the global defense network. Humans are at their most dangerous when backed into a corner. The battle for Earth lasted 3 days. The archivists, confident in their technological superiority, were unprepared for humanity's rapid adaptation of Centauri technology. More importantly, they were unprepared for how humanity used it. Where the archivists deployed precise, calculated attacks, humanity responded with improvisation and unconventional tactics. They used the quantum drives not just for transportation, but as weapons, creating localized space-time distortions that twisted archivist ships into impossible shapes. But victory came at a cost. Cities lay in ruins, millions were dead or displaced, and humanity's first glimpse of the wider galaxy had been one of violence. Yet even in tragedy, humanity found purpose. "We've decoded more of the Centauri data," Dr. Chen reported to the Emergency United Earth Council. "There are at least 30 other species under archivist quarantine. Some have been imprisoned for millennia. Their development artificially stunted, their populations controlled." The council chamber erupted in anger. Humanity had tasted freedom, and now they learned that others remained in chains. The vote was unanimous. Earth would not only resist the archivists, they would lead a revolution. Within weeks, Earth's shipyards were working at full capacity. The Prometheus-class vessels were no longer mere testbeds but warships, each equipped with modified quantum drives and weapons that could pierce archivist defenses. But humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology. It was information. Using the quantum communication network developed from Centauri specs, they began broadcasting to other quarantined worlds. The message was simple: freedom is possible, and Earth stands ready to help. The archivists had believed their experiments were safely isolated from each other. Instead, they had created a network of potential allies, each with their own reasons to fight back. And humanity, with its unique blend of determination, adaptability, and righteous anger, was the spark that would ignite the flame of revolution. As the first fleet of Earth ships prepared to break through the quarantine zone, Admiral Rodriguez addressed his crews. "For thousands of years, the archivists have played God with sentient species. They've watched us, studied us, tried to control us. But they made one critical error. They gave us time to prepare." The fleet engaged their quantum drives, vanishing from Earth's orbit in a flash of brilliant light. Their destination: the nearest quarantined world, where the Centauri waited with their own plans for resistance. The archivists had created their own worst nightmare. In trying to control humanity, they had given them a cause. In trying to suppress them, they had made them stronger. And now, as Earth's ships streaked across the galaxy, the true experiment was about to begin. It was no longer about who could be controlled. It was about who would be free. The gathering storm. The Centauri homeworld hung in space like a jewel, its 3 moons casting shifting shadows across purple oceans. As Earth's fleet dropped out of quantum space, Captain Maya Patel couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. Humanity's first contact with another imprisoned species would set the tone for everything that followed. The Centauri weren't what anyone had expected. They were energy beings, existing in a state between matter and pure light. Their cities were gardens of crystalline structures that channeled and shaped their natural radiance. But despite their alien nature, their desire for freedom was instantly recognizable. "Your arrival changes everything," First Light Heiress, the Centauri leader, told the human delegation. "For centuries, we developed our technology in secret, watching as the archivists suppressed world after world. But we lacked the spark, the will to strike first." Maya understood. The Centauri had evolved toward harmony and contemplation. They had the knowledge for revolution, but not the fire. Humanity, shaped by millennia of conflict and resistance, had brought the missing ingredient. But they weren't the only ones. As the joint human-Centauri fleet pushed deeper into archivist space, they discovered more imprisoned civilizations. The craft, silicon-based beings who communicated through crystalline growths. The myriad, a collective consciousness spread across millions of insectoid bodies. the Void Dancers, who had evolved in the space between stars. Each species had been chosen by the archivists for their unique traits, then contained and studied like specimens in a vast cosmic laboratory. Each had found ways to resist in small ways, developing technologies and knowledge in secret. But none had dared to openly rebel. Until now. The archivists believed isolation would keep us weak. Admiral Rodriguez addressed the first gathering of the Liberation Alliance. Representatives from 12 freed species filled the conference chamber of the Earth ship Horizon. Instead, they gave us all time to grow stronger in our own ways. Now, we combine our strengths. The alliance formed quickly, each species contributing their unique abilities to the cause. Centauri energy manipulation, Craft quantum mathematics, Myriad tactical coordination, Void Dancer navigation, and human determination tying it all together. But the archivists weren't idle. Their response came in the form of a massive assault on 3 Alliance worlds simultaneously. The message was clear: submit or be destroyed. The Battle of the 3 Systems became the first major test of the Alliance. Human warships fought alongside Centauri energy vessels and Void Dancer strike craft. The Myriad coordinated their movements while craft engineers manipulated spacetime itself. They don't understand what they're facing, Maya told her crew as they engaged an archivist dreadnought. They think this is about military might. It's not. It's about something they can't quantify: the will to be free. The Alliance's victory shocked the archivists. Their perfectly ordered experiments had not only broken containment but had learned to work together. Worse, more quarantined species were joining the rebellion every day. But during the battle, the Alliance made a disturbing discovery. The archivists weren't just studying imprisoned species, they were harvesting them. Deep in the captured dreadnought's data cores, they found the truth. Species that failed to develop according to archivist standards were recycled, their worlds stripped of resources, their populations preserved only as data in vast archives. The revelation transformed the rebellion. This wasn't just about freedom anymore. It was about survival. The archivists saw themselves as gardeners of the galaxy, pruning and shaping life as they saw fit. Any species that didn't match their vision of perfection was simply removed from existence. "We found their weakness," Dr. Chen announced during an emergency Alliance council. "The archivists are so focused on order and control that they can't adapt to chaos. They've spent millennia carefully arranging their experiments, never considering what would happen if those experiments started working together." The Alliance developed a new strategy. Instead of matching archivist power with power, they would exploit their rigid thinking. Human unpredictability, combined with the unique abilities of other species, created battle plans that the archivists couldn't predict or counter. As the rebellion spread, the archivists began to show signs of desperation. Their perfect order was crumbling. The specimens they had so carefully collected and controlled were not only fighting back, but innovating in ways their models had never predicted. Maya stood on the bridge of her ship, watching as another archivist facility fell to the Alliance fleet. They thought they were creating a perfect garden, she mused, but they were really building their own prison. They became so focused on control that they forgot what makes life worth preserving: the ability to grow, to change, to surprise. The storm that humanity had started was growing into a galaxy-wide tempest. But the hardest battle still lay ahead. The archivists were falling back to their core systems, where they had concentrated their power for millions of years. The Alliance knew that the coming conflict would reshape the galaxy. The only question was, what would emerge from the chaos they had unleashed? Revolution's dawn. The archivist core systems were a maze of Dyson spheres and artificial worlds, each one a testament to millions of years of technological advancement. As the Alliance fleet prepared for their final push, Admiral Rodriguez studied the holographic display of their target, the Central Archive, heart of the archivist civilization. "Their defenses are unlike anything we've encountered," Void Dancer Navigator Curl reported, their ethereal form shifting with concern. "The very fabric of space has been weaponized." The Alliance had learned much in the months of fighting. Each liberated world had added its strength to the rebellion, bringing unique perspectives and technologies. But the archivists had begun employing weapons that defied comprehension: reality warping fields, time dilation barriers, entropy acceleration zones. "They're desperate," Dr. Chen observed, analyzing the sensor data. "These weapons, they're burning through millennia of stored energy to power them. They're sacrificing their future to preserve their control." The Alliance's first assault on the outer defensive rings proved costly. Entire fleets vanished into temporal anomalies. Ships emerged from quantum jumps thousands of years old, their crews long dead. The archivists were willing to break the laws of physics themselves to maintain their power. But in their desperation, they revealed their weakness. The Myriad Collective was the first to notice the pattern. "They fear chaos above all else." The Myriad speaker chittered. "Each weapon is designed to impose order, to freeze, to crystallize, to make static. They cannot comprehend a universe they cannot control." That insight led to a breakthrough. Instead of fighting the archivists' weapons directly, the Alliance began introducing elements of randomness and uncertainty into their attacks. Human improvisation, combined with Centauri energy manipulation and Void Dancer spatial distortion, created battle plans that existed in a state of quantum uncertainty until the moment they were executed. The archivists' perfect defenses began to crumble. Their models couldn't predict what their enemies would do because the Alliance forces themselves didn't know until the moment of action. It was warfare on the edge of chaos, and humanity's long history of adapting to the unexpected proved invaluable. But as the Alliance pushed deeper into archivist territory, they discovered something troubling. The Central Archive wasn't just a seat of power. It was a vast repository of absorbed civilizations. Trillions of minds, digitized and stored in crystalline matrices. Species that had failed the archivists' tests, preserved as data points in their grand experiment. They're not just preserving information. Maya realized, horror dawning as she reviewed the data. They're preserving what they consider the optimal version of each species. Everything else is eliminated and stored as a cautionary tale. The truth behind the archivists' mission became clear. They weren't gardeners, they were curators of a museum of life, carefully selecting which versions of each species would be allowed to exist in their perfect ordered galaxy. The revelation nearly fractured the Alliance. Some species wanted to retreat, fearing they too would be reduced to data. Others called for the immediate destruction of the archive, seeing it as an abomination. It was a human perspective that finally united them. "We don't need to destroy the archive," Dr. Chen argued before the Alliance Council. "We need to free it. Those stored minds, they're not just data. They're prisoners, just like we were. And now we can give them a choice." The plan that emerged was audacious. While the main Alliance fleet engaged the archivists' outer defenses, small teams would infiltrate the Central Archive. Their mission, not to destroy, but to liberate. To give the stored minds of countless species the chance to choose their own fate. First Light Eris led the Centauri contribution, a way to transfer the stored consciousness into new synthetic bodies. The craft provided quantum computers capable of processing the vast amounts of data. The Myriad offered their experience with collective consciousness to help stabilize the transferred minds. And humanity brought its most powerful weapon, hope. As the final battle approached, Admiral Rodriguez addressed the combined Alliance forces. The archivists thought they could perfect the galaxy by controlling it. They forgot that perfection isn't about control, it's about potential. Today, we don't just fight for our freedom. We fight for every species that has ever dreamed of choosing its own path. The assault on the Central Archive began not with a bang, but with a whisper. As Alliance ships engaged the outer defenses, quantum-entangled infiltration teams slipped through microscopic cracks in reality itself. The future of a galaxy hung in the balance, and the universe held its breath. A new order. The Central Archive's crystalline corridors pulsed with energy as Maya led her infiltration team deeper into its heart. Each chamber they passed contained the stored essences of entire civilizations, preserved in perfect, sterile stasis. The weight of their responsibility was immense. They weren't just fighting for their own freedom anymore, but for the right of countless species to exist as they chose. Above them, the greatest space battle in galactic history raged. Alliance ships danced through reality warping defenses, their seemingly chaotic movements following patterns too complex for even the Archivist's predictive engines to analyze. Humanity's gift for controlled chaos had become the rebellion's greatest weapon. "We've reached the core," Maya reported, as her team entered a vast spherical chamber. At its center floated a being of pure light and crystal, the Prime Archivist, first of their kind, who had guided their civilization's mission for millions of years. "You cannot comprehend what you are disrupting." The Prime Archivist's thoughts resonated directly in their minds. "We are the guardians of order. Without our guidance, the galaxy will descend into entropy and destruction." Dr. Chen stepped forward, her quantum scanner revealing the true nature of the chamber. "No, you're not guardians. You're collectors. You're so afraid of the chaos of life that you'd rather preserve it in stasis than let it grow naturally." The truth of their mission, hidden even from most archivists, lay exposed in the core's data streams. The archivists had begun as a species much like any other, but their fear of disorder had led them to impose their vision of perfection on the galaxy. They hadn't set out to be tyrants. They had convinced themselves they were saviors. "Look at what we've accomplished," Maya argued, gesturing to her team. Humans working seamlessly alongside Centauri energy beings, craft crystals, and myriad drones. "This is what real order looks like, not imposed from above, but emerging from cooperation, from choice." The Prime Archivist's form flickered. "Your chaos will destroy everything we have preserved. Millions of years of careful cultivation, lost to random chance and uncertainty." "No," First Light Heiress interjected, their Centauri radiance pulsing. "Not destroyed. Set free. Every species you've preserved deserves the chance we've gained, the chance to choose their own path." The liberation protocol they'd prepared began to spread through the archive's networks, not destroying the stored civilizations, but awakening them, giving them choice. Some chose to remain in digital form. Others accepted the synthetic bodies the Alliance had prepared. Some merged, forming new hybrid species, while others chose to start fresh on new worlds. The Prime Archivist watched in growing comprehension as their perfect museum transformed into something alive, chaotic, and beautiful. "We sought to preserve life by controlling it," they finally acknowledged. "We never considered that life's greatest strength is its ability to change." The battle above ended not with the destruction of the Archivists, but with their transformation. As the stored species awakened and the truth spread, many Archivists began to question their mission. The younger ones, especially, saw in the Alliance a new way forward, not as controllers of life, but as participants in it. 1 year later, representatives from thousands of species, both newly awakened and newly liberated, gathered in Earth orbit. The Galactic Concordat, they signed, established a new order, founded not on control but on cooperation. The archivists who chose to join them brought their vast knowledge and technical skill, now turned to nurturing life rather than constraining it. Admiral Rodriguez, now retired, stood with Maya and Dr. Chen on the observation deck, watching ships of countless designs dance between the stars. "You know what the Archivist's greatest mistake was," he mused. "They thought order and chaos were opposed. They never understood that the most beautiful forms of order arise from freedom." Maya nodded, watching a group of newly awakened energy beings learning to navigate from a void dancer instructor. They spent millions of years studying life, but they never learned to live. The galaxy had entered a new age. The Alliance had become the Concordat, dedicated to ensuring that no species would ever again be caged or controlled. Earth, once a quarantined experiment, had become a symbol of liberation. Humanity, with its unique blend of chaos and determination, had sparked a revolution that transformed not just space, but the very meaning of civilization. Dr. Chen smiled as she reviewed reports of new discoveries, new combinations of species and technologies, new forms of life emerging from the freedom they'd won. The archivists wanted to create a perfect garden, she said. Instead, they ended up with a forest, wild, unpredictable, and far more beautiful than anything they could have designed. The story of humanity's rise from quarantine specimen to galactic liberator became legend, told and retold across thousands of worlds. But its greatest legacy wasn't in the tales of battles won or empires toppled. It was in the principle that guided the new concordat. True strength lies not in controlling life, but in embracing its infinite potential to surprise, adapt, and grow. As the first generation of naturally evolved hybrid species began to emerge, as new forms of consciousness and civilization developed in ways no one could have predicted, the galaxy learned what humanity had known all along, that the most powerful force in the universe isn't order or chaos, but the freedom to choose between them.